Have you ever heard the whispers from the old corridors? Have you ever felt the weight of invisible eyes watching every step you take? Today, you will learn about the story the Vatican tried to hide. The story of the cursed nun from the convent of Santa Lucia. The convent of Santa Lucia was founded in the 19th century on an isolated hill surrounded by dense pines and nearly constant fog. It was a refuge of prayer where nuns devoted their lives to God, or at least that's what they said. Among them, there was one nun who stood out, Sister Magdalena. Young, beautiful, and extremely devout. But behind her brown eyes, there was something dark, something that few noticed until it was too late. The other nuns began to notice that during the nights, Magdalena would disappear. Her steps echoed through the empty hallways. Some reported hearing whispers coming from the crypt beneath the chapel, a whisper in an ancient language that no one understood. One night, Sister Beatrice, curious and frightened, decided to follow Magdalena. She saw her enter the old penance room, where exorcist monks had worked centuries before. Inside, the young nun stood before a black mirror, uttering forbidden words. Magdalena had been seduced by forces that inhabited the convent itself, ancient spirits who had remained there after the first invocation rituals in the 17th century. She desired more than the monastic life had to offer: power, knowledge, and the promise of eternal life. That night the ritual was completed. A pact was sealed. The next day, Sister Beatrice was found dead, her eyes ripped out, her empty sockets and her mouth frozen in a silent scream. The convent was thrown into panic. But Magdalena seemed more serene than ever. The priest tried to exorcise her, but the demon inside her was ancient. It feared no prayers. The flames of the candles rose violently. The stained glass windows shattered with the sound of invisible screams. In a final, desperate act, the priest sacrificed himself, using an ancient silver relic to seal Magdalena's spirit within the convent's crypt. For decades, it was believed that the evil had been contained. But now, in modern times, the convent stands abandoned. Urban tourists invade the place in search of adrenaline. Many report hearing footsteps in the dark, chants in Latin, and sometimes a figure in a black veil wandering the ruined halls. The nun of Santa Lucia has never left. Every 13 years, on the night of the red moon, her spirit returns to the surface, seeking new bodies to possess, and they say she has already chosen the next one. Would you dare to visit the convent of Santa Lucia? Listen to the whispers that never cease. Face the empty eyes of Sister Magdalena. Remember, there are places where faith cannot reach, where evil remains. There are stories that transcend time, not because someone told them, but because fear itself keeps them alive. Whispers that never die, echoes of ancient tragedies that remain, lurking. Today, I will take you to the convent of St. Bartholomew, a place where silence is more than just a vow. It is a desperate attempt to keep the evil asleep. But what lives there does not sleep. The convent of St. Bartholomew was founded in 1743, lost in the icy mountains of Eastern Europe. Few knew of its existence, even fewer dared to visit it. It was a place of seclusion, where nuns from all over the continent came to do penance, escape their sins, or seek redemption. But this convent was different. There, the nuns didn't just swear chastity and poverty. They swore absolute silence, not out of discipline, but out of fear. Sister Helena arrived at the convent on a grey autumn afternoon. The wind blew cold, and the trees creaked like ancient bones. From the first day, she noticed that the silence there was almost forced. The other nuns looked at her with a mixture of compassion and terror. They rarely dared to make eye contact, and when they did, it was as if they were silently pleading for something, At night, Helena heard the convent groan, cracks in the walls, dry knocks behind closed doors. But what troubled her the most was the constant feeling of being watched. Always. Only one of the nuns had the courage to whisper to Helena, Sister Agnes, an elderly woman with deep eyes and trembling hands. "This place is not safe," she murmured one night, hidden in the cloister. "Here she dwells, the faceless one." Helena tried to understand, but Agnes simply continued, her eyes filled with tears. Ancient monks called what they should not have. They summoned something, a being that does not belong to this world. Now she hides among us, waiting. She steals faces and devours souls. Centuries earlier, heretical monks believed they could communicate with angelic beings, but the portal they opened did not bring light. What came through had no name, no defined shape, and it sought faces. The first victim was a young nun. At dawn, they found her body kneeling before the altar. Her face had disappeared entirely, smooth, stretched skin like polished porcelain. And since then, the entity remained, hidden, watching, waiting for new faces. Each year, during the black moon, the entity awakens. On the eve of the black moon, Sister Helena noticed that the nuns sealed their doors with wooden planks and crucifixes turned inward. She, however, driven by curiosity and courage, descended. She followed the ancient corridors, where worn tapestries hid marks of dried blood and symbols carved into the stones. The air grew dense, icy. When she reached the crypt, the darkness felt alive. It was there that she saw her, a dark silhouette, wrapped in an ancient habit, her head down, motionless. But as Helena approached, the figure raised its face. There were no features, no eyes. Just a smooth, pale surface like wax, but even without eyes, Helena felt the gaze, penetrating, invasive, as if it were searching through her mind, her memories, her identity. And then the entity mimicked her movements, step by step, every gesture, like a reflection, deformed. Helena recoiled, but the faceless nun advanced, silently, without haste, just drawing closer. Running through the corridors, Helena noticed the convent distorting around her. The walls seemed to move, the corridors stretched like living mazes. The doors slammed violently behind her, blocking any return, and the feeling of being followed never ceased. In a moment of despair, she screamed, but the only response was the empty echo. When morning came, the convent doors opened. The nuns emerged from their rooms, their eyes downcast. At the central altar, Sister Helena's robes were folded with perfection. Her body was never found, and the cycle continued. Today, the convent of St. Bartholomew remains abandoned, engulfed by vegetation and legends. Urban explorers claim to hear chants coming from the crypts, low sounds, women whispering in dead languages. Some say they have seen the faceless nun standing at the entrance of the old chapel, motionless, watching. But beware, if you ever see her, never look twice. For the moment you meet that empty face, she will know who you are, and she will desire to be you. Some stories must remain buried, but others continue to lurk, waiting for the next victim. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe, for there are still many shadows around us, and I will be here to bring them to light.